Okay, last time we did a couple of actors for our quest, and now it's time to implement the actual quest around these gameplay actor pieces. So let's start by first setting our level. So this portal should stay here. Let's get rid of this, and we want to have a second room here. So the final room where the player should head after he has completed this first part. And let's create it somewhere here in this area. So let's just copy paste this floor like so, and we want this wall to have hole, so we can place a door and then a second door here, which would be this bonus door. So the first door would be opened once you have completed this overall, and the second door is opened only if you have completed this stage under 60 seconds. So let's scale this down a little bit to make a hole. Let's say that's there. I think that's 3 meters. And then the second door would be placed here. And this is supposed to represent a maze, although it's not not that hard maze at the moment, but you get the point. Maybe like this. Okay, and then let's just create walls. Okay, so like so. Okay, so when the first stage, or not the first stage, but the stage where you have to push the cube to the portal is completed, we have a door here that opens, and in case if you complete the objective under 60 seconds, we will open door that will be here that gets you through the shortcut to this end room instead of going this longer path. So let's place the doors here. So we created the door under quest tutorial and actors folder. So let's place a door there. So this will be the first door. Okay. And then the second door, I'll just copy paste this, put it here. And then we wanted to have 4 cubes. So let's put our cube spawners there. We need 4 of them. Let's put them somewhere around to the level. So 4 in total. Maybe there. 1 there, and maybe there. Okay, here we go. Let's save this. Okay, and then I think that we are good to go, and let's start to implement our quest. Okay, so let's head to quests folder we created earlier. We had our example quest here, but now we want to create a new one. So head to quest framework category and pick quest, and this will be cube quest. Let's open it, and let's set the display name of this quest right now. This will be cube portal. Okay, so let's start. So first thing, we need to find the portal, and that will be the first stage of this quest. So let's create a stage, and we can call this find underscore portal. And the objectives we have here, just a single one, create objective, which is also called find portal. And the text we should display to the player, let's set it find portal. Okay. And we want that this objective is completed when the player overlaps with the portal trigger. And to do that, we need to have a variable. So complete query is passed when a certain variable is set to true. So we need to create a Boolean variable that states if the player has entered the circle. We call this entered portal. So when this quest variable changes to true, this objective is completed, and then all the objectives in this stage are completed in that case. So the stage will be completed and the flow continues from here. Okay, let's test this, and let's add a temporal quest end node here so we can test this. And what we want to change, let's go to player controller. As we're now starting our earlier example quest, let's change this to cube quest. So instead of starting the example quest, we will start our cube quest. So now if we hit play, we see in the quest tracker that we have an active quest, cube portal, and we should find a portal. That's our objective. Okay, if I now walk into this, nothing happens, of course, because we didn't set up anything there. So how do we change this value now? I would like that this comes true when I walk inside of this portal trigger. The plugin comes with a messaging system that can be used to send messages between these quests and any actors in the level. To set up the quest message system, we need to go to project settings. The messages work with gameplay tags, but they require a specific master category that we need to do. So let's create a tag. It's quest message. So we need to create a tag named quest message, and all the quest messages or quest message tags needs to be created as a child of this tag. Okay, so now we have it there. We can continue. So when we enter this trigger, we would like that this actor sends a message to our quest that the player just entered the trigger. For that, we have a service that can listen to these messages. So let's add a new service, trigger events on message. This service is basically running in the background while the stage is active, and it listens to messages that I can list here. So tags can be listed here, which events or messages it listens to, and once it receives the message, it will trigger a list of events. So what we want to do, we'd add a new tag here. So let's create another subtag. We can call this subtag as a cube quest, so we can identify that these messages are all belonging to the cube quest. And enter portal is our message. So let's add it here. So now this service will listen to this message. So when this message is received, these events in this list are triggered. So what are the events? Events are modular classes. You can create your own events if you want to, but there are two built-in events. One is to send message to listeners, which means that we can send messages to actors in the level. Another one is set variable, and in this case we want to use this set variable event. So when this message is received, we trigger this event, and in this event we want to set our entered portal to true. Okay, so next thing, we want to send the message to the quest. Let's go to the blueprint of this portal. So we already had this event set up here. When the player overlaps with the trigger, we go through this logic path. And now if the actor was player, we want to send a message. There are two different ways to do that, but we are going to use the first one, which is a broadcast quest message. So broadcast quest message sends a message to all running quests context. And then we have another one, which is a send quest message, where you can select recipient. These differ a bit from each other by that broadcast sends the message to all quest contexts running, and recipient, if you use this version, you can pick an actor that's gonna receive this message. So you can plug, for instance, you can plug a player character here, and only that particular player or the quest context of that particular player will get the message. So let's actually use that one, so as we have the player character here. And the message we want to send when we walk here is we enter portal. So if we now go to play and I walk to the portal, the objective should be completed when I enter here. And also the quest ended because we made it end after this stage completes. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, I added an additional flow here. So the player should stand in the portal for 5 seconds to spawn the cubes. But if the player exits the portal, we would like that the quest returns to the first stage. So he needs to complete it again. So if he exits the circle before the 5 seconds has passed, he needs to do it again. To do that, we need to do a couple of modifications. So to the portal, we need to know if the player exits this trigger zone. So let's add a new event on component end overlap. So when the overlap begins, we enter the circle, and when we end the overlap, we exit the circle. And because the player has multiple components, this begin overlap can trigger multiple times. And we would like that only the capsule of the player would trigger this. So what we need to do, we want to check if this other component is root component of this character. So we can get the capsule component of the player character and check if the other component just started to overlap is the capsule component of the player. So only in that case we want to send this message. So let's add a branch node here, and if it's true, we send the message. Okay, and the same for the end overlap event. We cast it to character class, so this other actor here, and let's get capsule component, and let's check if this capsule component is the other component that ended overlap. So if these conditions match, then we know that we exited the portal circle. And in this case, we want to send another event, and let's add it under the quest tube, exit portal, and the recipient should be our player character. Okay, so now when we enter the circle, we send a message that we entered the portal. When we exit the trigger zone, we send a message to the quest that we exited the portal. Okay, let's go to the quest. So when the player enters now this portal, the flow continues downwards. Let's get rid of this. We need a new stage. So this is the stage where the player should be standing in the portal. So let's call this stand portal stage. And again, this has just one objective. Let's create one. Stand is the logical name of the objective, and in this objective we want to use text formatting. Stand x seconds in the portal to summon magical cubes. Let's hit enter, and then let's set up the variable to control the timer for this objective. So it would be float, and we create a new one. Let's call it portal timer, and we want to use number formatter for that one, so no decimals would be shown. Okay, and this objective is completed when our portal timer is less or equal to 0. And again, the same thing as we did with the example quest, we don't like that this portal timer goes to negative, so let's add variable bound for it. So portal timer, and let's clamp the new value to 0. And then what we still need is a service that updates this portal timer. So let's add a service timer, and initial time would be then 5 seconds, as we had in this design, and it goes downwards 1 per 1 second. Okay, and after that we will end the quest. Let's test this at this point. So now if I walk into the portal, we complete the first objective, and then we need to wait for a couple of more seconds until it's completed. Okay, actually I noticed a little glitch in our quest tracker. It seems to be too small to display long descriptive or the descriptions of the objectives, so let's make it a little bit wider, like so, maybe a little bit more still. Okay, and then back to the quest. So the thing that we want, if we exit the trigger zone, we want to go back to this stage. So if this stage fails, we want to go back to the find portal stage. So if we now play and I go to the portal and I exit the portal, the timer just goes on and it's not working as we want to. So now we need to do a fail query here. So if our Boolean property of this entered portal is set to false again, then this stage should fail. So we pick enter portal, and if this equals false instead of true, that was set in the earlier stage, we fail the stage and go back to this. And one thing we need to do, as this entered portal boolean was already set to true, here we need to set it false if we exit the circle. So let's create another service here, and let's make it listen on our message. And if this service catches a message exit portal, it will trigger an event that sets our variable back to false. So entered portal, we set it to false. So now if this stage fails, we continue to flow from this red pin. This can get a bit messy if I just drag this connection from this red output to the input of the find portal. We can clean up this a little bit by clearing a selector and then wire the selector there. So we can use this as a reroute path. I might add later on some reroute node, so we would get a little bit more organized node networks here. Okay, so let's test this now. So if I now walk to the portal, the objective starts to run. If I exit it, it fails and we need to walk there again. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, we want to spawn those 4 cubes after we have stayed in the summoning portal for 5 seconds. So when this is completed, we again enter to a new stage, and let's call this cubes. In this stage, we are going to have 2 objectives. So the first objective is to push the cubes to the portal, and then another objective, which is optional, is to complete this stage under 60 seconds. And let's create those. So the first objective would be push cubes. Oh, sorry. And the second objective would be extra fast. Let's implement this push cubes first. So we should show the player the objective, what he's supposed to do. So let's type it here, push x slash 4 cubes to the portal. And this x argument would show how many cubes he has already delivered to the portal. And we want to use a quest variable again. It would be integer at this time. Let's create a new variable for that to track how many cubes he has delivered. So cubes delivered. So this will control how many cubes we have pushed to the portal. And this objective is completed when this cubes delivered equals or greater or equal 4. this can fail, so it doesn't have fail query. And then let's set up this optional objective. So as you might have seen, there is a significance property in these objectives. There are a couple of different type of significance for each objective. You can read more about them from the tooltips here, but we want this to be an optional. So optional means that this even if this objective fails, the stage is not failed, but just the objective. And this extra fast, we want it to be only failed, or actually not. We want this to be completed also when the cubes delivered is greater equal to 4. But we want this to fail if we are pushing the cubes over 60 seconds. So let's create here a float variable, and let's call this variable cube push timer. So if this timer reaches 0, we fail this optional objective. So less equal to 0. And again, let's set a couple of more variable bounds. So the timer for cube push timer, let's clamp it to 0. But also, if you accidentally add more cubes to the level than 4, let's just make sure that the cubes delivered is also clamped between 0 and 4. Okay, and then let's update still this cube push timer. So let's create a service here, timer, and initial time would be 60 seconds. We count downwards and update cube push timer towards 0. Okay, and then we need to still update this cubes delivered. So for that, let's create a service. We want to listen to again on messages. So this service should listen a new message. And let's create one. So cube delivered will be our message. So when the cube is pushed to the portal, the portal will send us a message, cube delivered. And when this message is received, we trigger an event, and we want to set a variable which will be cubes delivered. And now we want this to be additive, so we add to the current value of this variable. So we take this additive, which means that we are not setting the value, but we are adding to the current value of it. And we want to add 1 each time this message is received. Okay, and then let's go to the portal. And we had this already implemented here, that we destroy the cube actor when you push the actor to this portal. Let's extend this logic a little bit. All we need to do is just broadcast quest message, which will be cube delivered. So when the actor overlaps it, the portal, it destroys and sends the message to our quest. That will catch the message in this service and will trigger event to increase variable named cubes delivered by 1. Okay, then one missing thing still is how do we get the cubes spammed to the level. We would like that the cubes are spawned when we enter this stage. So once the player has completed this objective, we enter this stage, the cubes are spawned and the player is given these two objectives. To do this, we can use entry events. So when this stage is entered, the list of these, or that this list of events is triggered. So let's add an event here, and we want to send now we've been sending messages from our gameplay actors to the quest, and now we want to reverse it. So we want to send a message from this quest to our portal actor. And to do that, there is an event called send message to listeners. So listeners are actors that can listen to events or messages from the quests. Let's create a new message type, and let's call this spawn cubes. So when the portal, or no, not the portal, sorry for that, I meant our cube spawner instead of the portal. So when the cube spawner receives this message, we will tell it to spawn a cube. So let's add the message tag, and we are good to go. So when this stage is entered, we will send a message to all the listeners. And the next thing, we need to implement the listening logic. So let's head to our cube spawner. Let's get rid of that. So how do we listen to messages coming from the quests? It's pretty simple. We need to add a component. So if we want that this cube spawner actor gets messages from quests, we need to add a component which is quest message listener. So we add this component to any actor. It can receive messages from quest system. Here we have an event where you can bind your logic. So let's click plus, which will add the event to the graph. So this event will be fired when we send this message. So if this message tag equals the one we want to send here, we will want to spawn the cube. There's a list in this component what messages this should listen to. So we want to listen to this spawn cubes message. So this event will be triggered only in case that the message matches any of these tags listed in here. Okay, so now we receive a message. Let's spawn the cube. So what we need to do, let's just call the function we created earlier. So spawn cube, and let's save this. And now if we enter the portal, we wait 5 seconds, we see the cubes are spawning. And one thing we forgot to do was to set up the display description for our extra fast objective. So let's do that. So we had a cube push timer here. We want the objective to be shown to the player as complete in X seconds to earn a special reward. And let's set up this text argument, so it would be float and our cube push timer, and let's use the number formatter. So now if we enter the circle, wait for 5 seconds. The cubes are spawned, and we are having an optional objective that we need to push these cubes under 60 seconds to the portal. And let's try if this works. So if I push this to the portal, now we have 1/4, 3 left. Okay. Okay, so let's continue that. So the next thing, when the player has pushed all the cubes to the portal, we need to do decision. Either we open only the first door, or we open the both doors. So we have 2 stages. So if this fails, or not actually fails, because this can't fail, but if the extra fast objective fails, we want to do a decision. So this stage always completes. But in case our extra fast objective is failed, we want to do things differently. For that, we are going to use this selector node. So selector node can have multiple children, and it picks this children or the child from left to right. The first child from left to right that passes the condition set in these connection nodes. You can notice that the connection node is yellow here instead of white. It means that this connection expects to have a condition in it. So if you click this, it will show a condition in the details panel. So our first stage would be our bonus stage, and this would be our maze. So if the extra fast objective was completed, we enter the bonus stage instead, and if it's failed, we enter the maze stage. So bonus stage has just one objective. Let's call it shortcut, and use shortcut to reach the end. Okay, and let's create a complete condition for that. We want it to be a boolean, and let's name it reached end. So when this turns to true, we know that the player has completed the quest. And then the maze, let's create an objective here as well. Solve maze, and we want to show player a message or description of this objective. Solve the maze and find way to the end. And also the same applies here. We want this to be completed when the player reaches the end. He just needs to use the longer path through here. Well, not okay. I maybe need to restart the editor. Unreal doesn't like to load these. Okay, I'll restart the editor and we'll be back soon. Okay, now the editor restarted and the things are loaded correctly. I don't know what's wrong with the Unreal Engine. It does this occasionally. Okay, so when we reach the end, which will be somewhere around here, the quest should be completed. So either we need to go through maze, or then we can use the shortcut. So either from here or then pass through the both doors. The first thing, when we enter either these stages, we want to open this door, but only in case that we enter this bonus stage, we open this door. So let's set up that. Actually, first thing we want to do is not to implement that, but we need to implement this condition. So the selector should pick this bonus stage based on the completion of this extra fast. So let's create a condition to this node here. Let's add a condition and quest condition variable query. This means that we can run a query to quest variables, and it either returns true or false based on our comparisons we set here. So let's add a new comparison, and let's read our queue push timer. So we would like that this condition passes the bonus stage if our queue push timer is still greater than 0. So you completed this under 60 seconds. So let's put greater than 0. Otherwise the queue push timer is 0 and this condition fails, so we automatically pick this one. Okay. We can actually test this at this point, so let's add the end node here, and we can test this now. The doors won't be open yet, but we will already see the objective. So if I push these cubes to the portal, I try to be fast. Okay, first, the second, the third will be there. Okay, and the last one pretty far away. I can still do it. Okay, here we go, and all the cubes were pushed there, and because I completed the objectives under 60 seconds, I got the shortcut bonus stage instead of the maze. Okay, so let's open the doors now. We had this is open boolean, so we need to set it to true. We want to open this door. So let's head to the door blueprint, and also for the door we would like that it listens to quest messages. So let's add a quest message listener component here, and let's create a new message type to listen to. So cube quest open doors is the message we want to listen. Okay, and let's add the event here. So when we receive this event, we want to open this door. But the problem is now that these both doors would get the message, and we need to identify this door. So this should have some sort of an ID. So when the first bonus stage is entered, we open the both, and only the first one when we enter this stage. To create that, we can simply create an ID for these doors. Door ID. Let's call it door ID, and it would be integer. And let's expose it so we can edit it in the level. And if this door ID matches our payload, so we're going to use payload, we can send the message with payload from the quest. So if this door ID matches the integer set in our payload, we want to open this door. So let's break this payload structure here. You'll find in the gear parameter here, we can set this parameter in our quest asset. So if this equals to our door ID, we want to open the door. So let's set is open to true, and then this door would open. Okay, and then let's jump to the quest. So when we enter this stage, we want to use entry events to open the door. So let's add 2 entries here, one for each door, and let's send a message. The message would be open doors, and the payload we want to use, let's use 0, and another event we send also a message open doors, but this time we want to use 1 as our integer parameter. So 0th door ID would open when we enter here, but also the first the ID with 1. When we enter this, we want to send just 1 message, which would be also open doors, but this time we want to open just the first door, which would have ID of 0. And now we can set the door ID, so this would be 0, but this would have an ID of 1. Okay, let's test this. So let's find the portal. Let's stand 5 seconds here. And let's push the cubes. Here we go. Okay. And the last one. There we go. So now we gained the special reward, so we can use the shortcut door, so both doors are now open. Okay, that's it. In the next video, we're gonna expand this a little bit. We're gonna add a cutscene to the end and add a trigger to end the quest.